Welcome back to Digital Futures Education. In this video, I'm going to continue with our self-assessment tool, and we're going to be looking more specifically at entry-level IT skills with a quick assessment. And then I'm going to walk through a series of questions that you could use with a partner or someone else who's assisting coaching you to help you better define your career goals. These are a series of simple questions that are going to help you get a next step forward. So let's dive in. So in the past two videos, we've gone through the self-assessment tool to help review your current job, interest, and work skills, work experience, general technical and soft skills. And now we're going to move into entry-level IT job skills and then some reflection questions to help you reflect on the skills that are going to be necessary for you to develop better hard and soft skills in looking for that next step of your career. Questions here are designed to help you just self-evaluate yourself a little bit around the skills you have and what you want to include within your resume when you're looking for a job. Now, they're also to help you understand some of the gaps you might have. So if you feel like you cannot answer these questions really smoothly, effectively, and efficiently, you might want to think about what are the gaps in your answers. And I'll suggest some as we move through, but think about that as you move through yourself. So the very first question is, I effectively communicate technical information to non-technical users. And that's an incredibly important skill because if you're working in IT support or any level of IT or, with technology in general, your ability to explain technical concepts in a way that many people of a wide range of skills and abilities can understand is going to be incredibly helpful. Because your supervisor may not always know the technical reason why an issue's happening. So it's important that you can explain these things in a way that's clear, concise, and allows you to kind of continue working on the project and people understand what the potential outcomes might be. And do note with these questions, I do have the same status as I had in previous questions with strongly agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree. Just a way to help you review your standing. And this is something where with a question like this, you may also want to take some notes for yourself around, areas of improvement. And also you may want to practice this skill, with someone prior to a job interview in terms of explaining a technical topic to a person who may not have a huge level of technical expertise, and just get their feedback on whether or not they understood your solution. All right, moving on to the next question. I am good at problem solving and troubleshooting technical issues. Now, everybody is going to have a different self-perception of how good they are at doing this, but at the end of the day, you want to feel what's better than being good is at least having a methodology for the way in which you're going to troubleshoot. I do recommend the troubleshooting methodology from CompTIA if you want to go that route and learning that methodology. But you want to have a strategy at looking at the problem. What is the context of the problem? What areas are impacted or affected by the technical issue? And do you need to escalate the issue to those who maybe have more experience? Now, that's just a very surface level examination of your ability to understanding your own ability to troubleshoot and problem solve. But you do need to dive in and kind of get a good feeling for how effective do you think you'll be at this over time with a wider variety of problems. And you don't have to know all the solutions, but you do not need to have a strategy for solutions as they come up. The next question is here. I work in a team and can collaborate effectively on projects. So do you have experience on a team? Have you collaborated before? Was it successful? What did you like? What did you not like? When answering this question, take some time to just think, how well did I collaborate? Did I contribute to a response? Did others take my ideas and utilize it towards a larger potential solution? Was I the leader in the group? Did I kind of follow the group? What was my role when working collaboratively? And ask for opinions from others if you're working on projects, like how well did I collaborate? How, could I have contributed more? What could I have done to improve my ability to do this? I handle empathy. I handle customer service situations. So the next question is about customer service, which is essential and critical in the area of IT in many positions worldwide. And I handle customer service situations with patience and empathy. I think we've all had an experience where we've seen people really handle a situation really, really well with patience and empathy, and at the same time, try to get the best solution within a business environment. And then I think we've seen people really handle it poorly in the past. So you really want to be on the side of handling it with empathy and patience and not allow the situation to get beyond you. Basically, try to address the things that you can control in a situation and do that in a caring way, under trying to understand the customer, understand how you need to be patient sometimes with your response or your potential solutions that you provide, and try to do your best, sometimes in a very difficult situation. But can you do it? Are you capable? Can you take a step back and look at the situation from a couple different perspectives to make sure that you're doing your best to help the customer with the situation they're having, whether it's IT related or otherwise? Next one is I adapt quickly to new technologies and changes in project direction. So we had a question related to this with soft and hard skills around adapting to new technologies. Now, this is a question which is not only adapting to new technologies, but changes in project direction. So this is under the anticipation that maybe you're working on a project and you need to learn something new, or the project requires learning something in addition to help solve the solution of the project. How would you do it? What are your strategies? Can you adapt to the new technologies that's going to help this project be successful, not just adapt in general? The next questions are just around some general proficiencies, and these are changing very quickly within the job market. So the ones that I have here, I definitely think are going to get dated very quickly, but for the most part are still out there and should be some things that you consider prior to applying for positions. The first one is I am proficient in using Windows and Mac OS operating systems. Now, you may feel proficient until you're asked to do something or asked a question around troubleshooting something. Now, I'm not going to advise or suggest that prior to a job interview, maybe that you study every single thing about the potential problems of a potential system, but you want to, over time, expose yourself to these systems. Maybe you have a friend who has a Mac and you don't have a Mac. Maybe you ask them how to find certain areas of the computer and file locations and some of the components of the interface. And it could work the same way with someone who has a PC if you have a Mac. Now, you want to make sure you expose yourself to these different types of operating systems, because that's going to help you troubleshoot and problem solve issues with those users who use these type of systems. They're also going to make you more aware of the different types of operating systems that are out there and the solutions that come with troubleshooting them. And remember, that's going to be essential in an entry level role. As small or insignificant as it may sound, these skills are essential. The next one is I am skilled in Microsoft Office. Next one is I am skilled in Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And the same could be said for Google applications and cloud Google applications. Understanding word processing and cloud-based word processing tools, whether it's Notion or some other Trello type tools. Microsoft Office is, of course, from the Microsoft family. Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Just understanding how they work, how to troubleshoot common problems, whether it's saving files, creating documents, compressing documents, how Excel spreadsheets functions, and also how PowerPoint presentation functions is essential. So make sure that maybe you've been working, and I see this a lot, maybe you've been working with just Google applications for a long time, and you're very familiar with Google Docs. But then you get this great opportunity where they're using mainly Microsoft. You're going to need to then apply yourself to that environment, whether it's the cloud Microsoft environment or it's the locally installed environment, which still exists. You're going to need to learn how to be adaptable to those different types of interfaces. So just keep that in mind. And it's going to definitely depend on the job, but you need to be prepared to interact with these different softwares in different capacities. And that should be on the basic job description as well. The next question is, I can effectively use help desk software, such as Zendesk or Freshdesk. And you're going to see a lot of different types of help desk software probably in your career at IT. You're going to see ticketing software. You're going to have inventory software. You're going to have all different types of systems management, analysis, data management software. So the best thing I can recommend here is that you become familiar, if you are not, with the idea of a ticketing system and how it functions within a work environment, especially an IT help desk environment. What does it mean to escalate a ticket, close a ticket, open a ticket? What is the good, what are the best practices for certain organizations? What are the best practices for certain organizations for closing tickets or escalating tickets of different types? Different systems are going to have different features. And that's a great question in an interview is perhaps, what type of ticketing system do you use? And being a little familiar with ticketing systems prior to the interview, just so that you feel, they may come back to you with, oh, do you have familiarity with that system? And you could say, I may not have had familiarity, but I've done a lot of research. I understand how to open a ticket, close a ticket, best practices for updating tickets. And it shows that you take an initiative around actually handling the tasks at hand on the position. The next question is, I am comfortable using remote desktop applications to assist users. Now, this is super handy to have some experience with the remote desktop applications. There's a wide range of remote desktop applications, but essentially you're providing service to someone on a machine that's not near you. You are remoting into that machine, acting as the user, but you're checking on files, basically trying to troubleshoot issues remotely. And there are a range of remote desktop applications. I would become familiar with the most common ones if you're unfamiliar with remote desktop applications, just to become more familiar with them so that if you're asked about them in an interview, you've at least heard about them. Many remote desktop applications have a free version that you can test and try. So don't be afraid to try to do the install, test out trying a remote desktop application, just so you're familiar with how one works and functions. The next part of this is really diving into some reflection questions that you can work on with a partner around evaluating your hard and soft skills and doing some goal development, just around how do you improve over time with these skills. So the very first question is here is, what are your current strengths in terms of soft skills? So if you've been going through this and taking notes all along the way, you should have an idea of what you think your soft skill strengths are. They're going to be topics like collaboration, teamwork, creative solutions. They're going to be non-technical based ways of working that are skills that come through working with others. Now, if you've been going through these questions, this next question is important. What are your current areas of growth in terms of soft skills? So maybe I was great at collaboration. I was great at teamwork. I have some creative solutions, but let's say my customer service could be improved. I'm going to say I could be more patient with customer service. And I think if you have not worked a lot of roles in customer service, that's going to be true for most people who are filling this out. Patience with customer service takes practice, it takes time, and it takes committing to being more patient in stressful environments. So sometimes that takes a little bit of extra time to develop. Next question is, what are your current strengths in terms of hard or technical skills? Younger people are often very technical savvy. Maybe you have programming, cloud technologies, maybe you have very specific targeted knowledges in a programming area or specific cloud technologies that you are happy to say that you have and can put on your resume. But now it's, what are your current areas of growth in terms of hard or technical skills? And one thing that I would say here is you really want to think about the types of roles you're applying for. Maybe you don't have a lot of experience with penetration testing for cybersecurity. And just to have like another alternative topic here, I would also say project management tools. Maybe you don't have a lot of experience with project management tools, and I'll say technical project management tools like Slack. And that would be true if someone maybe just came out of college or starting education or have a limited experience in the work environment. You're probably not going to have a lot of experience with project management technical tools and how to utilize them. And that's going to connect closely to the soft skills, but it is going to ultimately be a technical skill. People are going to have to learn how to use these tools effectively. What areas would you like to grow the most in the next 3 to 6 months? Now, these are areas that skills, soft or hard, that you think that you can grow in within a 3 to 6 month period. Now, different skills are going to take longer. Now, of course, if you said, I wanted to learn Python programming, there are people who could learn quite a bit in 3 to 6 months, but to really, really know that, it probably takes learning it and also applying it in a much longer period than that. So you need to be realistic with the next 3 to 6 months. You may want to acquire additional customer service experience, which would be a soft skill. And this is also a good place to say, something that's a much short term, I would like to understand the Mac OS operating system better. Very simple because everybody has weaknesses. Not everyone has all of the skills and experiences that they have for any one job. So you may come across a description which doesn't necessarily have that you may come across a description which you need that Mac OS experience. You maybe have never done it. Now, you can also take a very short course, do some training on your own, upgrade and adapt your own understanding of the Mac OS operating system within a short window of time, like 3 to 6 months. So just be careful around goals that you pick for that window of time. The next area addresses goals that take a little bit longer. What areas would you like to see grow the most in the next 6 to 12 months? So this is an area where you can choose larger goals. So this could be learning a programming language. This could be receiving a very specific type of experience. And let's see, I'll say I will complete the Amazon Cloud Practitioner certification, which is a relatively short. So you could write something like complete the Amazon Cloud Practitioner certification and the CompTIA Plus certification. Now, the reason why I wrote those two items is that we could really put anything here. It's a longer period of time, but you want to think about what's going to give you the most value over time. Now, you could work on learning a full programming language, but if it's not going to apply to those entry-level opportunities you're really looking for, maybe you'd be better off doing something a little more general. So I do recommend here, maybe potentially taking a short course, a couple or several short courses over the course of a 6 to 12 month period of time. Cloud Practitioner is a short certification on entry-level cloud concepts. So you get that cloud concepts piece. And CompTIA Plus certification, it does take some additional study time, up to a year or even 6 months for those who are on a path where they feel like they could dedicate the time to it. But you're going to get certifications. You're going to get additional knowledge in a wide range of areas. You're going to get a much more structured experience with your own self-learning, which is going to give you more over time. And that's really what you want. If you're really dedicated to kind of getting your opportunities, you don't want to waste 6 months or 12 months. You want some sustained practiced learning, whether it's an intern experience could be also on this list, but something like additional certifications or short certifications just to get you in the frame of reference over a course of a year that you're really coming out of that time using it effectively. You don't want to take an entire year off or 6 months off. The final question here are, what are two barriers you will need to face? What are 1 to 2 barriers you will face and need to overcome? I will say most people do procrastination, basically put it off, and they put it off for their own reasons, like they don't feel ready or they don't feel like it's going to benefit them enough. So procrastination is a big one. I think some people can feel overwhelmed by the skills they need. And I think for a final barrier is, so if I look at these 3 very big barriers, a lot of people have these as really big barriers. Now, this is where connecting with me and having me assist you can really come in handy, because I can help you kind of cross these barriers, because at the end of the day, you want to get these things done. You want to get these skills accomplished. You want to move a few steps forward every couple months. You can't do that if you're procrastinating, if you're putting things off. You can't do it. If you're overwhelmed by the technology, you need to just think about tangible ways to apply the skills to get the experience, so you just feel slightly less overwhelmed by any particular type of technology or something that you're trying to learn. And then time. You need to dedicate a specific number of hours a week to do this. I recommend 2 to 3 hours a week if you can. I think that's enough to, get started and kind of push yourself forward. But you need to do it and then be consistent with it. It's one thing to dedicate. It's almost like going to the gym or doing anything that's going to show persistence over time. You need to be consistent with it. You need to basically set a time. This is when I'm going to work on this. Maybe it's once, twice, or even 3 times a week, and dedicate yourself to picking up where you left off so you can see continuous learning over time. So this is a reflection that I recommend doing with yourself. You can do it with a partner and then share the answers and talk about what you both need to do. But it's essentially asking you to review your strengths, your weaknesses in terms of soft skills and hard skills technically. What are some things that you could learn and set goals for? I think most people do have ideas of things that they would like to learn that are realistic goals for them. Strengths and weaknesses. And then how on a 3 to 6 month and then a 6 to 12 month phase are you going to learn? are you going to apply your skills to get to the next level? Very, very important. And then, of course, the final one is barriers. We all have barriers. How you face them and directly face them to accomplish your goals is up to you. Thank you. That's the final phase of that self assessment document that I utilize with students to help review their progress as they move towards their career goals. And I hope that by you going through it, you also can remove some of the barriers to help get to the next level. Please remember that these questions are on digitalfutureseducation.com website. I also have a link in the description to these questions. Feel free to get that download, review these questions, utilize them with a partner, with someone who's even not horribly technically savvy, a parent, a friend, someone to help you evaluate what your next steps could be to move forward with a career in IT. So thanks for joining me. Please give the a like and a subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you soon.